The roommate I had my freshman year of college seemed to me to be getting an inordinate amount of attention from a lot of girls. There was like 5 or 6 different girls always coming over to our dorm room asking if he'd go to lunch with them, seeing what he wanted to do that night, just checking to see if he was around. He was always hanging out with a bunch of different girls. I remember being like, the hell? He was reasonably attractive, he was pretty cool, he was very smart, but like, why so many women? Like I said, this was my freshman year of college, and I didn't know anybody and was actually having a really hard time meeting people. Like, I couldn't even make any friends at all to begin. Meanwhile, my roommate here has got a cavalcade of women stopping by saying, hey, wanna hang with me? I finally had to ask the guy, and I was hoping he had like a secret, and he did. He told me it was pretty damn simple. Get ready for it. It was so simple, I was like annoyed. But he told me that he smiled. I'm like, smiling? That's your stupid secret? He basically told me that whenever he was walking down the street or whenever he was in the classroom and he saw a girl that he thought he might be mildly interested in, he'd just smile. And this is the point at which he told me that I basically always looked pissed and looked like I never wanted anybody to approach me. Oh, wait. That's how I look? I was 18 my freshman year of college and had been losing my eyesight since the age of 8. Growing up in a small town and hanging out with all the same people all the time, I didn't even realize the fact that I'd basically been losing my central vision and started looking at people out of the corner of my eye, which is where I had the only amount of functioning vision left. Everybody I'd grown up with was totally used to it. When I looked slightly off to their left or their right, I was actually looking at them. So not only was my eye contact way off, but I'd also kind of forgotten about facial expressions. I mean, I knew people had facial expressions, I just couldn't see them. And I think subconsciously, because I couldn't see them, I didn't really bother paying attention to what I was doing. So years later, when I met this roommate of mine and he was walking around giving a nice little smile, her and her and her, I was walking around the campus of my college basically like, And I wasn't necessarily pissed or grumpy, I was just really focusing on trying not to bump into anybody. I remember my very first day at college, before I actually met my roommate, I was trying to get the attention of a girl that I thought, with what vision I had, was kind of pretty. We were standing in line in front of one of the freshman dorms, and I started talking to her, and then the dude next to her responded in kind of a confused way. That whole looking out of the side of my eye thing made it seem like I was randomly starting up a conversation with the guy next to the girl that I wanted to talk to. This was when I very quickly learned that in order for me to look at a person back then, I had to put my eyeball focus where they weren't. I mean, talk about disconcerting, having a conversation with someone you literally couldn't see. But this whole lack of eye contact and not paying attention to my own facial expressions and not being able to read the facial expressions of other people continued to be a problem throughout my entire life. When I was single and I'd go out to places with my friends, there was no way for me to get the attention of any woman in the place at all. I mean, unless I walked right up to them and started a conversation, but there was no like, I couldn't even give a little bit of eye contact like, hey, I'm coming over. It was just like, I'm here. I remember one time in particular, I was out at a bar with my best friend, whose name was also Pete, and he left me for a little while to go to the bar to get a drink. He came back, and as he came back, these 2 women who didn't look anything like anybody else in the whole bar came over and said to him, I don't know what your friend's problem is, but apparently he's not interested, so we're out of here. And both me and other Pete were like, what? They started to turn around and walk away, and my friend Pete kind of tracked him down just to be like, what happened? One of them explained to him that she'd been trying to catch my eye for like a solid 2 or 3 minutes. These girls were in Boston, in town from Florida, and while most of the Boston women were dressed very fashionably and very Boston, very chic, these were Florida girls dressed in as little clothing as you can get away from going into a bar, and were in town for one night. They were trying desperately to get my attention, and I was just staring into space or, looking past them, or maybe I was even mean mugging them like, grrr, or something like that. They weren't interested in listening to an excuse, and they just took off. Other Pete was not very happy with me about that, and this is something I still struggle with. Obviously, I'm not out there trying to meet women or anything, but just meeting new people for the first time, I can't read their facial expressions at all, I can't catch their eye, but I have learned over the years to try and look a little less grumpy just as my normal resting face. But yeah, if you want to attract a woman, or maybe just make some friends, smile. Be friendly. Look inviting.